Welcome everybody, and thanks for sticking around so late in the day. It's great to see so many people here. Toby's asked me to talk about our journey through managed accounts and how it has changed the way we service our clients, and it really has radically changed the way we service our clients. As Wes says, we got our own license about 3 years ago. That was a massive change for the firm. And managed accounts has been equally significant. And it's changed our business in many, many positives. And I want to share some of those with you today. Do I have some slides?
Green button.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, please ask me any questions that you have. It's too late in the day for me to talk for half an hour. I don't want to. I'm sure you don't want to listen to me. Please stick your hand up if you have any questions. So 4 things I want to briefly touch on today, which is why did we adopt the managed account? What does our service offering look like post-managed accounts? What is it? And then some handy tips for those of you who are considering launching your own managed accounts. So 4 problems needed to be addressed. And the first of those, this was 2 years ago, we decided that we were getting close to $1 billion. We got about 700 clients, typically high net worth. And we were getting killed by the administrative side of running portfolios, corporate actions, trade errors, just constantly trading and the flow that goes with that. But really, we were struck by the problem of our investment committee would meet, as those advisors in this room will know, and ours meets monthly. We'd make a decision, we'd communicate that decision to the advisors, and then they would roll that decision out depending on when they next met their client, which we meet most of our clients twice a year, and some of our clients 3 times a year. So that wait could have been 6 months between making decision and executing it. That's a really, really old-fashioned, sluggish way of doing things. So speed was the number one concern we wanted to address. How can we introduce a much more efficient way of rolling out investment committee decisions? Administration, I've touched on. Our back office was growing significantly. And trade errors were starting to come out. Corporate actions were just a nightmare. I remember one week where I think we had a hybrid, a CBA corporate action and a Telstra corporate action all in the same week, and we just ground to a halt. So we realised we'd reached the ceiling in what we could administratively cope with. And the 4th point, which is, I'd say speed is the most important, but the 4th point is client engagement. And our advisors were getting so wrapped up in talking about BHP versus CBA, Magellan versus Bennelong, or whatever it was, and whenever we made a change, rolling out why we were making that change, talking about the funds. And it was the advisors, we realised, who really cared about that. Our clients didn't care, but our advisors convinced themselves that their clients did care. They're only discovering today how little they actually cared about Bennelong. Awesome though Bennelong are, they don't come to us to discuss what Bennelong is putting their money in. They come to us because they don't have enough time to invest their own money, or they don't have the skill set to invest their own money. They don't come to us to share the journey, how are we going to do this together. If we do, we say get a self-managed super fund and do it yourself. So the benefits unsurprisingly address the needs. Far more proactive portfolio management. Let me give you an example of this, because it's really important for those of you considering this to understand how it works. We had been long the Australian dollar last year, and it reached 80 cents at the turn of the year in January, and we decided to take off that long Aussie dollar. When I mean long Aussie dollar, means we were hedged international shares. The international share sleeve of our portfolio was hedged back into Aussie dollars. When the dollar hit 80, we decided that's enough is enough. It looks like the dollar's peaked and we would rather be underweight. We executed that position. Now, we didn't do it via options or derivatives. We did it using Vanguard ETFs. So we have a core satellite approach. We give the fund managers who we like And we use more ETFs than active funds. But there are funds that do add value consistently over time. We give them long-term money, lock-up money. We say, this is yours for 3 years. We won't pull it out on one bad year, but if you've had 3, we will review things. The satellite are the tracker funds, the Vanguards, the iShares. And Vanguard has 2. It has an unhedged international share fund, VGS, and it has a hedged international share fund, VGAT. And we just flip one for the other. And suddenly you're overweight 6-7% in the Aussie dollar, and now you're underweight. You flick a switch on your platform, and suddenly all 490 clients we have on our platform are now underweight the Aussie dollar. It is that quick, it is that effective. Okay. Richard talked a little bit about fees earlier. This is an interesting one. Some people say, are you not just adding another layer of fees to what you do? The answer is no, we're not. I'd say it's a more equitable distribution of those fees. Like Richard, we have dropped our advisor fee. We have a specific money management fee, we have an advisor fee, and we're sharing some of those fees with the fund managers. Yes, typically if you engage a fund manager to run an SMA, they will run it at a lower cost than a managed fund, but there's a lot more room to negotiate on a managed fund if you have a managed account, and certainly with scale. So there's been more of an equitable distribution of fees, certainly not an increase. But important point to note, this is not cheaper for your clients. It's really important, advisors in the room. This is not a way of saving your clients money. This is about a much, much better technology. Reduced administration. We make trades. Clients have now given us discretion to make trades on their behalf, so there's much less need for ROAs. Consistent portfolio offering. And our advisors can advise again. And we launched this in February of last year, and so most of our advisors have been through the cycle of they've launched the managed account, they've got just under a year's performance of it, and their initial, well, I'll talk about the advisor reaction in a minute, because it's really interesting and it's not perhaps what you'd expect. But they can advise again. They can actually become financial planners again rather than money managers. And I don't believe we're not principally money managers. If you look at the CFP, you look at the AFA, look at the FPA, those qualifications are not money management qualifications. Financial planners are not geared to pick stocks, understand correlation, diversification, option theory. It's not what we should be doing. So advisors are advising again and really, really enjoying it. And we have a consistent offering. 12 months on, what's the reaction been? I want to talk about the reaction for the clients and the advisors in particular. And the advisors are the interesting one because it hasn't suited everybody, to be frank. We have 15 advisors. They range on a spectrum of those who love the money management and think they add tons of value, to those who have no interest in it and are happy to delegate it to whoever they can. And on that spectrum, unsurprisingly, this end resisted it heavily. You mean you're going to tell me that I have much less scope to recommend changes to my clients? Well, yeah, that's exactly what we're telling you. Now, our managed account doesn't comprise 100% of our clients' portfolios. It's a really important point. That's 70%. And we tailor the rest according to the client's situation. But the core of most of our clients' portfolios are now managed account. And not all the advisors loved it. I would say they are learning to love it because of the reaction it's getting from their clients. Administration and power planning. Administration power planning, it's been fantastic. Our administration team is growing quite significantly and quite concerningly, and the growth in that team now has stopped, completely stopped. We haven't had to let anyone go, but we don't envisage hiring anyone for quite some time. It's consistent. Clients now have, if you are in a balanced risk profile, you will have a very similar portfolio to someone else of your age, of your risk profile. And most importantly, the reaction of our clients. And we were surprised initially at the resistance we got. Really surprised. 'Cause, you know, When we made the decision and we had the first few client meetings, we were expecting them to embrace this wonderful new technology and say, thank you Netwealth, thank you Hub, thank you PowerApp. This is fabulous. Where's this technology been all my life? But they didn't. They said, are you telling me you are going to make changes on my portfolio without telling me? It's exactly what we're telling you. It's exactly what we're telling you. And for a lot of them, that was quite a confronting concept. So I warn you, those of you who are going to make this transition, it requires a lot of explanation. Repeat in 1,000 different ways. And like anything, a lot of it comes down to, well, look, in the end, we're your advisors, and this is what we recommend, and you kind of have to trust us. If you don't trust us, you shouldn't be clients of ours. We've been lucky. I would say we've been lucky because, of course, 2017 was a bumper year for markets. Every asset class went up, and every asset class did exactly what we all said they should do, which is that the really risky asset classes went up more than the less risky asset classes, and it was like the textbook case study year. So we have been lucky, and we've had a wonderful 1 year's performance from the managed account. And of course, with that comes a lot more client trust. Okay. 60 seconds on what our managed account is. We've got 5 models from conservative up to high growth. We are introducing low-cost ETF-only models. Increasingly, there is growing skepticism, I'm sure you're all aware, on funds, and we are meeting that demand. So we do have a lot of clients increasingly coming to us and say, why do you use active managers? Isn't it just another fee? It's like, well, we disagree. They add value net of their fees on average, but we are bringing out an ETF-only one. They're managed by an investment committee of 5. Our investment committee is run by a guy called Ashley Owen, who used to run Centric's 4 billion. Very experienced portfolio manager, fantastic. I think a lot of you know him here. We have Don Stammer from the RBA, is also on our investment committee, and myself and 2 others. So we spend a lot of money on our investment committee, and money management will be Stanford Brown's thing. And I think this is another really critical decision if you are thinking about a managed account. Will you run the money yourself? There are some advisors, I think, annoys me, frankly, who come to these things and say, who are you to think you can run money? Well, I'm not to say if you can run money or not, but that's for you to decide if you can run money. Some firms will say it's the core of what we do, we're going to carry on doing it. And some will say we can't wait to give it to you. So biggest decision really for advisors is, do you want to be your investment committee, or do you want to outsource it to an Ironbark or someone else? We have the ability to de-risk. We have twice the ability to de-risk as we have the ability to go up. And that's mandated. What I mean by that is if our client risk profile is as moderate, so say 50-50, and we're maximum bullish on markets, we can go up to 65% growth assets. If we're maximum bearish on markets, we can go down to 20%. So there's a lot of scope. So a lot of people would say, what's the difference between what you guys do and a Vanguard balanced portfolio? Dynamic asset allocation, and meaningful dynamic asset allocation, in particular on the downside. We use ETFs predominantly, probably 60% ETFs, active managers. We do have an equity. Some clients love equities. I don't know why, but they do. They love equities. We use DNR Capital as an SMA for the Australian equity sleeve. I can't stand using equities for my client portfolios because I don't want to talk to them about Rio and BHP and whatever else because I don't know anything about them. So I'd much rather outsource it to people like Banalong who do know about Australian shares. We use direct investments, very overweight commercial property at the moment, and private equity. One thing we found in our managed account, just a word of warning, they don't do illiquid assets very well. In fact, they don't do it at all well. I think there will be a next wave of evolution around that, but really 1 month settle assets are a bit of a problem for most managed accounts. And finally, we add value in 3 places, which is dynamic asset allocation, choosing managers, and quarterly rebalancing. Okay, quick That's too complicated. So that's the another thing our advisors find incredibly confronting and quite scary is the transparency of performance. So every single basis point is now accounted for. We publish this every quarter. This is the first year of the Lunar managed account. Let's take the far right one, the high growth, because it's the biggest and the best. So it's focused on that one. It returned 14% last year. And we break that down. We charge a 28 basis point model portfolio fee. So plus GST, that's that little red minus 0.31 at the bottom, that's our fee. The index we used, which is the Vanguard index, returned 11.9. We use a different static index that added 1.6 to the portfolio. 0.49%, 0.5% was added through asset class selection, which is predominantly by being overweight the Aussie dollar. And we added a fairly mediocre 27 basis points through our active management. That's net of their fees. So every single basis point is accounted for now. Even more scary for the advisors, we now benchmark how we're going versus Vanguard and versus CPI. So the clients get this every quarter. The red is their portfolio. The dotted line is CPI. So our high growth portfolio has a target of CPI plus 5 net of fees, and we say, look, that's the long term that we're all shooting for. It's going to go up and down because it's a super high growth portfolio. And the blue is how you're doing, CPI plus 5 day by day, and then the red bar is Vanguard. So we have obviously going to be quarters where there are going to be 6 months. There are going to be years where we underperform both CPI and Vanguard. It's okay. That's okay. So very, very transparent. In the remaining 2 minutes I have some handy tips. And we made heaps of mistakes in this process, and we spent way too long on it. Frankly, we overanalyzed it. Do research a lot. Coming to conferences like this is a great thing to do. Talk to advisors. I'll be happy to talk to any of you if you want afterwards about what we did. Investigate all the platforms. Appoint a managed account champion. Really important. We had one person who we could just fire questions at, and they ran a database which just exploded out of control. But this is a really significant decision to make. Test everything. Like I say, figure out whether you want to run your own investment committee or you want someone else to do it, and then just talk this to death with your clients over and over and over again. And once you've done it, talk it again and again and again, because they forget, why are we doing this? Why aren't we signing off on trades? It is confronting for clients to give up control of their portfolio. It is confronting. And we would be right at the extreme end of advice firms. We do not take people who want to mix and match their portfolios. Go and do it yourself if you want to do that. So our clients are already trained that we run your portfolios, not you. And even for them, it was tough. Okay, and don't underestimate the resources that you'll need. So, in summary, a fabulous decision we made. Heaps and heaps of work. Don't underestimate the amount of work, but one of the best things we've ever done. Any questions?
Jonathan, just a question. Have you had discussions within your management team or compliance about how you sort of ensure that the model, your portfolios, fit the client and that the client doesn't fit the portfolio in this challenge that the accusations potentially from ASIC or the market that these people are being shoehorned into portfolios? How do you sort of have you got legal advice around your documentation process and so forth, other than risk profiling?
Yeah, good point. First of all, get really great legal advisors when you do this. We engage 2 legal teams to provide us with advice on all sorts of things, conflicted REMs being the most important one. First of all, I mentioned the point earlier, we have about 70% of our clients' money typically in the managed account, 30% outside. For the younger ones, it would be much higher, because for the younger ones, we say just take the market beta and keep fees low. But for the clients where they can't afford to sustain big hits, we would structure, they would probably have 50% of their portfolio in managed accounts and more in inflation-proofed assets such as infrastructure, inflation-linked bonds, etc. So we take into account, obviously, risk profile, but also client age very much as part of that.
Jonathan,
You mentioned the client resistance to, I suppose, taking them out of the investment decisions. Was there any silver bullet or something that you told them that made them most comfortable about that, or was it just telling them the same thing over again?
Well, first of all, it's not mandatory for any of our clients to have a managed account. So we presented them with, we now have the ability to do this. It didn't exist 2 years ago. We now can do it. It's our strong recommendation, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You can continue doing things the way we did before. About a fifth of the clients opted to stay with the way things are. So by not making it mandatory was the most reassuring thing. And those clients who've been with us for a longer period had developed trust and were prepared to go along with what we were doing. But certainly for the newer clients where trust hadn't yet been built to that degree, they were much less likely to adopt it.
I was just going to ask what percentage of clients have moved over, so it's about 4/5 have moved.
Of those who we have discussed it with, yeah, it's about 80%. Yeah.
I've got a question, Jonathan, which has to do with the change in attitude of your clients to your service offering. So for those clients who have accepted this and are now managed account clients of Stamford Brown, what change do you think there's been in their attitude to your business or to your service offering?
First of all, as I mentioned earlier, we did get lucky. 2017 was just an exceptional year. So when everything you say is going to happen happens, and in spades, it does give you a tailwind. But really, it has been our ability to develop our offering, because we've had so much time freed up to, 2 years ago when you're preparing for a review to see a client, there was so much portfolio rejigging to get done. Now there's nothing. Now there's almost nothing to do portfolio-wise. It is all going on in the background. So every advisor suddenly has all this time freed up, which means they can focus on all the things that matter to our clients. So we have taken our engagement level to our clients to a much, much higher level, which is what you have to do with a high net worth client base. I think if you've got a high net worth client base, this is a must do.